Happy Tuesday, everyone, and welcome back to Around the Crown. I'm Gina DePietro, joined by Ryan Wagner and our Peanut Gallery and social media manager, Ken Brown. Today's show is live now on Facebook, YouTube, and the Gov channel. And if you're watching on the city's Facebook page in particular, you have an opportunity to ask questions today. So leave them in the comment section below, and Ken will make sure that we get those answered. So over the next few weeks, we plan to continue our introduction of Charlotte City Council. Last Tuesday, we spoke to first-time Councilman Dr. Justin Harlow and Larkin Eggleston. You know, we learned so much about them as people, and we had a great time doing it. But we're going to take a short break this week because we have something else that is also really important to share with you all. And it's not a glamorous topic, but in today's world, it's also just one of those conversations that's necessary. And so that's why we're covering active shooter survival training again today. So for a couple of years now, since about mid-2015 actually, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has been teaching the ABCs to active shooter survival all over our community. And today I actually got the opportunity to go through that myself. So the instructor, Lieutenant Steve Huber, is here now to share some of that information with you all. And let me just say that this is another great opportunity to utilize Ken and ask those questions, voice your concerns. You can never be too prepared when it comes to this topic. So if you have something on your mind, please weigh in below. Ken's going to pass it along. So Lieutenant Huber, feel free to take a seat. And Lieutenant, on one hand, I'm really happy to see you again. On the other hand, you know, it's just kind of a reminder that your line of work is still needed. So is that something that you hear from time to time?
Yes. You know, I think, you know, after Columbine, people thought that, you know, that was a fluke, that kind of thing was not going to happen again. Or if it did, it was going to be even rarer. Unfortunately, what we're seeing now in active survival and active shooter situations is that they're continuing to happen. And unfortunately, since Columbine, there's been about a 16% average rise in the amount of active shooting events that have happened in the country. So the message is it's not a fad. It's not something that's going to go away. It's actually, I think the better term for it now is it's a trend. Mm-hmm. And it's something that all of us, everyone, has to start thinking about, planning about, preparing for.
Yeah, you shared some numbers in the class that I attended today, and you said that it was some recent data that had just come out. You know, so you said in 2016 there were 20 active shooter events that resulted in 83 deaths. In 2017, that number went up to 29 events with 140 fatalities. I mean, those are staggering numbers.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
You know, and something that you said too is these shooters, they're actually studying each other's work and they're trying to outdo the next one. So that must make it more difficult for law enforcement to kind of stay ahead of this. It
does, and it needs to make the public even more aware, because what we're seeing is the Columbine killers tried to kill more people than the Oklahoma City bombers. The Virginia Tech killer tried to kill more people than the Columbine killers. The Sandy Hook killer studied other active shooting events when he started planning his. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a definite increase in the amount of people that are dying in these events. Just since Columbine, the numbers I gave you, and I'll give them out again, is just since Columbine, where 13 people got killed, you had 32 people that got killed at Virginia Tech. You had 27 killed at Sandy Hook. You had 49 killed in Club Pulse. You had 58 killed in Las Vegas. You had 26 killed in Sutherland Springs. And now in Parkland, Florida, you just had 17 killed. So as you can see, those are just the big numbers. And that's what I tried to reinforce to the class today, is that those are just the ones that we're paying attention to. That's not counting the small ones that people haven't even heard about, where 4 or 5 people have been killed in a workplace or at a Walmart or even a post office last year. So there's other active shootings that are going on, but unfortunately they're not making the national conscious, so people don't know about them.
Yeah, there are just so many external factors that vary in each of these incidents. Does that make it difficult for you to create a curriculum, or how do you go about kind of working around that, I guess?
Well, one of the hardest things when it comes to active survival and instructing active survival, and one of the things that we have to express to our classes, is that there's no two active shooting situations that are the same. Every single one of them is different. The suspects are different. The motivation's different. The weaponry may be different. The environment is different. There's just so many different factors out there that there's no way that one person could teach somebody how to prepare for that. So what our strategy is with our class is that we teach people the things to know if they find themselves in one of those situations. And as I mentioned to the class earlier today, one of the things that we try to do is give people information that helps them make their decisions faster. Because if you're in an active shooting situation and it takes longer than 2 seconds for you to decide what to do, it's probably too late. You have got to be able to decide quickly and efficiently through planning, through training, what you're going to do. You can't wait until it happens to figure out what to do, because then you're going to be confused. You're going to be thinking about different things and you're going to factor in things. You've got to train it. It's like we tell people, if you train it, you will remember it. If you don't train it, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah, and some of that could be as easy as you said, you know, a deep breathing exercise to keep the heart rate down when something, you know, something like that should happen. So there are a lot of different ways that people can prepare.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's one of the parts of our class.
So, you know, had I not taken it, I have to be honest and say, I think one of my instincts would have probably have told me, like, get down on the ground and get out of sight. But I think through the course, that's probably one of the worst things you can do, is just to simply hide. And that's something that you really stress, and a point that I want to make to the folks who are watching is, you know, go a step further and barricade yourself, as opposed to just hiding behind something, or throw a chair at them, or jump out a window, or just do something to give yourself a better chance of survival. And that's a big point, I feel like, is what you're trying to stress in that training.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, our program is the ABCs: avoid, barricade, and then counter. And yes, what we have found over the historical analysis that we've done on some of these events, and that the FBI, of course, has done, is we have found that people who just hide, they don't do anything else, they just hide, or they get down on the floor, they get under desks, they get under tables without taking any other action whatsoever. We have found through our experience and through studying some of the bigger events that those people end up getting killed. You know, we've had events where people have played dead on a dance floor, for example, at Club Pulse, where people who were caught and realized at the last minute that it was a shooting, they dropped to the ground and played dead. But the problem is that the shooter at Club Pulse was actively shooting inside that club for 7 minutes. And that shooter was moving through the club. And if somebody was on the ground, he kicked them. If they grunted or they moved, he shot them or shot them again. So the point is that hiding by itself, okay, is not the safest option for you. You've got to take more responsibility. And now I want to stress one thing on that. If somebody is coming towards you and they're obviously actively shooting at you and you feel like you can't get away from them, okay, and you feel like you have to take cover, that's one thing, okay? Cover, by the way, is something that would protect you from a gunshot, okay? Not concealment, which is, I mentioned from the Las Vegas. A lot of people thought they were taking cover behind tents, but that's not cover, that's concealment. If you're in that last situation where you're taking the shots on you, whatever the location you is, and you have to get behind something to keep the bullets from hitting you, obviously we want you to do that, okay? But the message about not hiding is that if you have the time, if you're in a location where you have the time to make decisions, obviously we want you to get out of that environment if you can. If you can't, okay, and you're stuck in a room or something like that, then we want you to choose a location, if you can, that you can barricade yourself. And the first level from the class, if you'll remember, of a barricade is to lock the door. To shut that door and lock that door, you have just barricaded yourself. And in all of our research, we only know to this point of one situation where somebody who was barricaded in a room, the shooter was able to get in that room and kill 2 people, okay? Only one. So that just shows the importance of getting something between you and that shooter, something that was going to keep them from getting in, or is going to cause them a time delay to try to get in. because these killers know they're on a time limit. They know from the moment that first shot goes out that somebody is contacting the police and the police are on the way. So they know they only have a certain time frame that they can operate in. And that's what we're trying to do, is make it as hard on them as possible to get to people. And then, of course, the last part of that, we talk about the avoid, we talk about the barricade. The last part of that is countering, and that's basically fighting back. You know, if that shooter gets into that room with you and you're fighting for your life at that point, you're going to have to do whatever it takes, whether it's throw something at their face, whether it's use some type of a weapon of opportunity to attack them. Even we teach in our class, you know, a technique for grabbing a semi-automatic handgun. Things that you may have to do in that last ditch situation to survive.
Yeah. And if you do have a little bit of lead time, you said movement and distance can be two of your best friends. So that comes into, you really have a few seconds to make that decision and, you know, kind of make that your plan if you're able to. So
yes, a moving target is hard to hit. A target that's moving away from someone is hard to hit, even for trained shooters like law enforcement, military. Moving targets are just hard to hit. That's all there is to it. And there are multiple examples, even in Columbine. The two killers rampaged in that school for 4 minutes and 10 seconds. They rampaged in school and they killed 3 people before they got to the library, where all the students were down under the desk and under the tables, where they killed 10 people, okay, in about the span of 35 to 45 seconds. So the difference is the survivability goes up as you're moving and running and taking that opportunity to try to get out of the environment. If the shooter is in the building and you're out of the building running across the parking lot, your chances, your odds go up every step you take to get away from that building.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything on social, Ken?
Yeah, you mentioned sort of training and sort of the breath simulation. You can't simulate the fear in training. So how would you recommend that someone like myself practice this on a regular basis to be as prepared as I can be if this were ever to happen?
Well, when we talk about the controlled breathing, which I'm doing right now while I'm being interviewed, because I'm not used to being interviewed in this type of an environment, I'm taking controlled deep breaths right now while I'm talking to you, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm using my training. I'm reverting to my training in what for me is a more stressful environment than normal, okay? And I'm controlling my breaths. I'm taking controlled deep breaths. And that's what we tell people to do, is to just do that every single day. If you don't do anything else, every day, morning or night, whatever, just take controlled deep breaths for 5 minutes to train yourself, to put that into your mind, so that in that stressful situation, which could be anything, you could be in a car accident, you could, witness a crime or something like that that could scare you. And if you have that basis, that foundation of taking those controlled deep breaths, you can employ that to help calm yourself in those situations. All police officers do it. Military does it. I'm sure firemen and medics do it. It's just something to help you cope, because we know that controlled deep breaths are going to reduce your heart rate and they're going to reduce your blood pressure. And those are the key things, is you want to keep those in a manageable area, and that's how you do it. It's through the controlled breathing.
So the program has been up and running for roughly 3 years, was it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many businesses, how many people, do you have any idea the scope of how many people you've touched here in our city?
We've tried to add it up. Mm-hmm. We think that the number of people we've taught in probably the 3 years, if you combine me and the other 2 instructors for it, we would say, and it may be a little bit ambitious of a number, but I would say we're probably somewhere in the 25,000 range of people. But then you think about the population of Mecklenburg County and the surrounding region, and you realize that that's a really small number of people that we've been able to get this training to. Mm-hmm. That's why we do things like what we're doing right now, talking to you, and trying to get the message to more people that may not have the opportunity to come to one of our classes, and try to get that information out there. Plus, I have to tell everybody watching this that there are other resources out there for active survival training. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department is not the only resource. There are other companies out there that produce training videos. A lot of gyms are starting to do active survival training, how to take down an assailant, how to protect yourself if somebody has a gun. You're really starting to see nationwide a lot more focus coming around now finally to active survival and active survival training. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I would encourage people in this day of the social media and the internet to get on there and find some kind of training that fits your particular need and go with it.
Yeah. And the team of people who are able to do that for CMPD, you're one of 3, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's a smaller team, I would say. Do you guys have a big wait time if somebody's, maybe listening at work and thinking we should really get them on the schedule?
Well, I would tell you this. I describe it in waves. Because a lot of people ask me, how busy I am as an instructor and how busy I am on the classes. And one of the things that happens is we have waves that come in when a certain active shooter situation happens. For example, when Las Vegas happened, we really did not see that much of an impact in the amount of people calling us for classes. However, when Sutherland Springs happened, all of a sudden, churches started just coming out and saying, hey, we need this training, we need this training. We actually in November did a workshop. We did a 2-session workshop at the police academy where I was able to teach over 550 church leaders and pastors this program to take out to their different parishes and different houses of worship. And what happened is that has spawned obviously a lot more classes through the houses of worship. So we're still riding that wave that's been going steadily into this month. And now with Florida coming in, now all of a sudden Florida has reawoken a lot of the business community to say, wait a minute, and some of the private schools and church schools are starting to say, hey, we need this training now that may not have thought about it before. So we actually have 2 waves kind of crashing at the same time right now. The house of worship wave, which is still riding, and then now we have the school wave. So it's human interest, it's human attention span as to how the training goes. But again, what we are encouraging people is, don't wait until it happens, or wait till it happens to some type of a group that's close to your group. Call us ahead of time and get us out there. We have a bar and nightclub program that we do. We have a house of worship program. We will even help a house of worship to develop a plan of action. We're not plan experts, but we have a generic plan that they can use to build their own plan. And then we'll look at it. We'll do walkthroughs of businesses, churches, bars, and nightclubs to look at the locks, the doors, all the different components of the business to make sure that they're as safe as possible in an active shooter situation. Again, I want you to understand, my focus is active survival. I don't come to your business to talk to you about how to keep a burglar out. I'm here to talk to you about how to keep somebody who's trying to kill as many people as they can out. That's where our focus comes from.
Yeah. You actually retired, and then you said that CMPD, kind of approached you quickly thereafter and said, hey, would you be interested in being one of the people who teaches this program? Did you say yes because of what the program was and because that you believed in it? I mean, what sort of, you think, I finally retired, and to automatically sign yourself up for another job, was it because you just felt it was important?
Well, when I became a police officer, because it was a calling. Okay, I've known since I was a little kid that I wanted to be a police officer. That's what I always wanted to be. Okay, and when I retired, I actually approached Deputy Chief Foster in our department, and I said, hey, I would like to be, somebody who still contributes to the department. Okay, and she says, have I got just the thing for you? And she told me about this program, and in October of 2015. I went and I watched Sergeant Chris Kopp, who created the program, teach the program. He had started teaching it in September of 2015. So I went and I watched him teach the program, and as soon as I saw him teach the program, I realized that this was a second calling for me. And the reason is because every single class we do, I feel like it prepares people. I feel like it potentially is going to save people's lives, okay? And the other thing is that the training is so valuable, Okay, I cannot tell you. If you stayed in the classroom after today's class, you probably saw the number of people that come up and want to shake my hand and want to thank me for teaching them this program. Okay, because they've never seen anything like it before. They've never been exposed to it. Less than 1% of all businesses conduct any form of active survival training. Less than 1%.
Wow.
So when somebody walks out of one of our training sessions or any training session, you join an elite group of people, okay, that have received some form of active survival training. You'll probably remember in the room, we had 86 people in the room. And of that 86 people, I would say 40 of the people that were in that room had already been through the training class that I provide, okay, that I teach. So in that room, all right, there was another 40 approximately that had never received any form of active survival training, okay? So that's almost half of the total room that had no active survival training.
That was me.
Yeah, so, and it's like I ask in the class, you know, if you had no training and you've not trained what to do, what do you rely on? You rely on your instincts. That's all you have. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to replace people's instincts with some sort of a game plan. Something to prepare them. And that's one thing we say in the class. I said it today. We don't try to scare people with this class. That is not our purpose. Our purpose is to prepare people and help them make better, quicker decisions that hopefully could save their life.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was eye-opening because you used a couple of specific examples and just sort of explaining, you know, like people in this room acted in this way and folks in this room acted in this way, and you can see the difference in what the outcomes were. So it's certainly up to you to, you know, make those decisions should something like that, God forbid, happen. So
you're exactly right. One of the things that we tell people through our training is that you have to take some kind of action. In every circumstance where people took action, lives are saved. In almost every situation, okay? Now, there are situations that could just be overwhelming to one group or another because of the nature of the weaponry being used or the shooter or the environment. But what we've seen consistently is that people who take sometimes what we would call simple actions, okay, like locking a door, or using their bodies to barricade a door, using their foot to wedge it at the base of a door, like a foot wedge. You know, simple actions, piling furniture up in front of a door, tying a door handle off to a table, you know, with some kind of a cord or belts or whatever to keep that door from opening. There's so many different things that people can do, and we have so many positive examples throughout history of where people have taken some simple action, okay, and that action saved a room full of people's lives. You know, in Virginia Tech, Miss Chang, who was the teacher's assistant, you know, when she heard the shot, she immediately got up. She shut the door, which had no locks on it. She told the students to take all the items in the room and put them and pile them in front of the door, which they did. And then she told them to use their bodies to barricade that furniture against the door. And the killer at Virginia Tech was not able to get into that room. So, you know, just something that now seems second nature to some people, back then was revolutionary. And look at, she saved 12 people's lives, including her own. So it's just, sometimes it's just that simple thing that can save lives.
Yeah. And some of it I feel like is probably about reversing a mindset because, like, I'll show my age. When I went through school, elementary school, like tornado drills and stuff, you're taught to, you know, go under the table and stay there, stay on the ground. And so I think a lot of people, that's their instinct. And while that might be right for a tornado drill, it's certainly not right for a situation like this. So,
well, that's probably the number one bad habit that we're trying to break. Is that right now when we do our scenarios in the classroom and we ask people what they would do, we still have, I would say, an approximate 55 to 60% of people whose first response is to get on the floor. You know, to get down on the floor, to get under a desk, to get under a table. You know, some people say they would freeze. You know, some people say that they would try to talk to the person. Some people say they would dial 911. Some people say they would wait to see which way the shooter was going. We hear a lot of those kinds of answers, okay? The problem is those answers are the kind of things that get you killed, okay? You don't have time to do any of those things, and you don't have time to give yourself up, you know, by laying down on the floor, okay? In Sutherland Springs, Texas, the 26 victims, the shooter went through that church and he went basically pew by pew by pew shooting the people that had laid down in between the pews for cover, okay? People that survived were the people that ran out of the church, okay? The people that were being shot were the people that stayed in the church and took cover between the pews, okay? But that's not cover. That's just basically hiding. And that shooter in Sutherland Springs reloaded at least 5 times as he was moving through that church, okay? So the point is we're trying to break that habit to get people to stop doing that, okay? You know, in Columbine in 1999, in the library, when the 50 students were under the desk and tables, they were doing what their teacher told them to based on what her training was, okay? But now here we are 18 years after Columbine, but we still have people that through whatever their education was when they came through the school system, and I was there. I was the Cuban Missile Crisis. You heard my example earlier. You know, I was told, get under my desk, get under my table. Those were things I was told too. And what we're trying to do, a lot of what we're trying to do in this class is we're trying to break bad behavior or break an old habit that was taught to people a long, long time ago that's still in their mindset. And we're trying to get people to start looking at things from a more modern perspective.
Yeah. Ken, anything on social?
Yeah, so I've gone through your training, and the one thing that stands out for me that I remember is you say that the shooters are people too. So if you throw something at them, they have to react. They're not invincible. Is there a tip or a piece of information that you give to people that typically is that light bulb or aha moment that they walk away with something that's truly valuable to them?
Well, the one thing I want people to understand is, you know, sure, a person with a firearm, okay, is a formidable opponent. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. If somebody with a firearm walks into an environment with other people with no firearm, obviously the person with the firearm is going to command the attention, okay, because they have a firearm. But what we try to make people understand is that in most of these cases that we see, these active shooters, they're not superhuman, okay? They're not former Navy SEALs. They're not, you know, have some unbelievable, uncanny ability to, you know, defend themselves or to attack people or anything of that nature. What we see in a lot of these situations, including just recently, is they're teenagers, or they're a guy that was dishonorably discharged from the Air Force, or they're a guy who gets mad at his people at work who decides to go get a gun. You know, they're human beings, okay? They're human beings in the sense that they still have human frailties. And if you throw a stapler at their face, they're going to duck to get out of the way of it. No matter what they're doing, no matter what kind of weapon they're carrying, if you attack them from the neck up, okay, with a pen or a pencil or hot coffee or ice water or a flagpole or you know, whatever you attack them with, okay, you know, you're going to get their attention. There was a situation in Oregon where a guy went into a college dorm and started shooting in a dorm mall area, okay? And while he was shooting, a student that was behind him that he didn't see ran up and tackled him. And when he tackled him, the suspect dropped the gun, okay? Unthinkable, okay? Unthinkable for a police officer, somebody in the military, to drop their gun, okay? Even getting knocked off their feet. But yet this shooter dropped his gun. Okay, so the point is when we talk about countering and we talk about, you know, people as that last option fighting for their lives, you know, you have to understand that there is power in the group. Okay, you also have to understand that individuals have power that they may not believe. As part of the demonstration I did where I had the young lady grab and hold the gun with 2 hands. Her 2-hand grip on that gun was stronger than my 1-hand grip, okay? And she was about 5'2", okay? But you saw how she could twist the gun out of my hand, but I couldn't twist the gun out of her hand. And that's the point, is there is power. People have more power than they think they do, and that's what we try to talk about, is try to tap into that power to get them to use their strengths.
We good? Ryan, do you have anything before I wrap it up?
I got one quick question for you. I'm a parent. I got 3 kids, you know, 2 4-year-olds, 1 2-year-old. Ken's a parent. You know, you see these videos of these kids, you know, and you see what they're going through, and it's just gut wrenching. You know, you see, like, immediately my head defaults to, never happened to me. But then you start thinking, you go, okay, there's a good chance this could happen. You know, it's starting to happen everywhere. What do you tell parents with young kids that don't want to do stuff like this because they're just afraid that it'll show their kids what the world really is and stuff like that? They might be a little scared to do it. What is too young, or what is the right age to even get families involved in doing stuff like this? Because even though we're looking at schools where your parents aren't around, but there's also malls. You know, you've seen situations like that. So what would you tell a parent that is
I think the answer to that, and it's really not an easy answer, but I think there's a couple answers I got to give you. The first answer I want to give you is it's really up to the parent. When the parent feels like the child is capable, I think it's time for you to start talking to them about this. I have a 19-year-old daughter, okay, and our children are smarter than sometimes we give them credit for. They know a lot of things about a lot of things we wish they didn't know about, but they know about it, okay? So my point is I do think gauging the child and the child's mindset is up to the parent to make that decision. Now, on the other hand, okay, I also want to explain this part to you. We know from experience that children in an active shooter situation from preschool to college, they're going to do what their teachers tell them to do, okay? So the biggest conversation you need to have, even before your child, depending on their age, is the teacher, okay? What is the teacher going to tell them to do? In Parkland, Florida, you'll see a lot of examples of how those students did exactly what their teachers were telling them to do. That teacher has that formal position as the boss or the controller of that class, and those students recognize that, even especially in a stressful situation. So the conversation that I would encourage you to have is have it with your children's teachers, and ask them, what are you going to do? What preparation have you guys made? What is your thought process? What would you do if you heard shots in the hallway? What does the school tell you to do? Those are the conversations that you've got to have, because you want to make sure that teacher is making the best decisions possible, because all of those children are going to be looking to that teacher for that example, for that role model. And I think you saw that in Florida.
Right. I think it'd be interesting to start that conversation, because my two go to kindergarten next year. And even as unthinkable as that is, it's happened. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it can't happen again.
Well, a lot of parents try to shield their children from bad things, okay? I mean, let's just be honest about it. I did the same thing with my daughter. My daughter knows nothing about my career as a police officer except some of the good stuff. She doesn't know any of the bad things because I shielded that from her intentionally, okay? But the problem is they find out these things, okay? And they're a lot smarter than we think they are. And at a point in time, we have to start treating them like young adults. And we have to be honest with them. And we have to prepare them for the fact that there is evil in this world. And if we don't prepare them for it, if we shield them from it, and we never mention this kind of stuff to them, and one day, using your example, they're at a store or whatever, and something like this happens, they're not going to know what to do, because nobody ever prepared them for it. So your thinking process is excellent. And at a point in time, you're going to realize when it's time for you to start having those frank conversations with them. But that's a parent-to-child relationship. Now, I can't tell you there's a specific age for that. You're going to know it just like he'll know it's different from his child. That's up to you guys to start making those decisions. But I hope wherever they go to school at, I hope that the school has a plan. And I hope a big part of that plan is the teachers, and I hope that they're training that plan. Because if you have a plan but nobody knows what it is, it's no good. You have to reinforce the plan. You have to train the plan.
If a school, a business, a local place of worship wants to get in contact with you guys, what's the best way to do that?
The best way right now to contact us would be to email me. My email address is mhuber@cmpd.org. So just have them email me, and that'll start the communications. We do ask that people just be patient with us. We have a lot of people that are requesting the presentation right now, and it's a 2-hour presentation, and it's free anywhere in Mecklenburg County. But we just ask people to be patient. A lot of people are really excited about getting this training as quickly as possible to their business, and we got it. But what they don't understand is that there's about 20, 25, 30 businesses in front of them that are also competing for us. So we just ask people to be patient with us.
Okay. Good on social, Ken?
Good.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today, Lieutenant.
All right. Thank you very much. It was nice seeing you again.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate
your time, as always.
So obviously a super important conversation to have, one that is happening all across the country. And if you want to share this information with a friend, a coworker, a loved one, find it online on SoundCloud, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. It's also available on the city's website at charlottenc.gov/ATC Live, or just go ahead and follow the city's social media accounts at CLTGov. I know Ken pushes out those links once they're up. So tons of options out there for you depending on your preferences. Again, next Tuesday afternoon, we'll continue our introduction of Charlotte City Council. Greg Phipps of District 4 and District 7's Ed Driggs will both be here. So get your questions ready and join us again next week. Have a good day.